He found a lipstick-stained cigarette in the guest room. His wife didn't smoke. Neither did he. That night he told her, "I'll be back in 30. But instead of walking, he waited. What walked into his house destroyed him. He waited next. Cold, calculated, unforgettable. My name's Nolan West. If you'd asked me a week ago, I'd have said my life was boring but stable. Married to Aubrey for 8 years. No kids yet. Just a Pinterest-perfect home, and baby plans for maybe next year. Aubrey was an elementary school teacher, everyone's favorite. Floral cardigans, perfect handwriting, always smiling. I was a back-end engineer working remote out of Cincinnati. A tech guy married to a sunshine girl. That's what people saw. That's what I believed, too, until I found something that didn't belong. That Tuesday, I went upstairs to clean out the guest room. My cousin Troy was coming to stay. His breakup had gone nuclear, and he needed space. I hadn't even touched that room in months. When I moved the nightstand to vacuum behind it, something scratched the wood. I bent down. An ashtray, 3 half-burned cigarettes, 2 with dark red lipstick, 1 clean to the filter. I froze. Aubrey hated smoking. Couldn't walk past someone with a cigarette without gagging. I picked one up. Tobacco. Real. Stale. There was no innocent explanation. I took photos. Multiple angles. My heart pounded, but something in me went cold. I put the ashtray back, vacuumed, and made the bed. But every few minutes I stood there again, staring at that corner behind the table, like the wood itself would confess. That evening, Aubrey came home right on time. 5:37 p.m. vanilla perfume. Keys in the ceramic bowl. "Hey, babe, how was your day?" she asked. I smiled, like always. "Good. Just getting things ready for Troy." We had dinner. We watched TV. She graded papers. I watched her, not as my wife, but as a stranger in my house wearing her skin. At 11:18, she kissed me goodnight and drifted off to sleep. At 11:30, I made my decision. I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling fan spinning above us, like it was mocking the storm in my chest. At 6:02 a.m., I got out of bed. She always charged her phone on the kitchen counter. Like always, it was there unlocked. I connected it to my laptop and launched a mirroring app I downloaded during the night. It cloned everything: texts, call logs, notes, photos, apps. Her entire digital world now lived on my machine. Invasive? Probably. But I wasn't a husband anymore. I was a man at war. That day, I sat at my desk pretending to work. My mind couldn't process code. I monitored every notification from her phone. Most were normal. Teachers' group chats, reminders, errands. I started to wonder if I was overreacting. Then at 3:16 p.m., it came. A message from Eric G. Simple. "Usual time tonight. I miss your scent already." My stomach dropped. I didn't know an Eric G. Neither did she, not closely. Her reply came back fast. Shatter my bones. 9:35. He leaves for his walk at 9:30. Doors unlocked. I read that message again. Again. My pulse didn't race, it slowed. Numbness washed over me. They had used my routine, my evening walks, the same loop I'd done for years, as their opportunity. That night, she made her signature dish, chicken marsala. We laughed. She asked about Troy. I smiled. At 9:28, I laced up my sneakers. She was on the couch with her tea, grating. "Be careful," she said, not looking up. "Always am," I replied. But instead of heading right like always, I turned left, 3 blocks over, down an alley. I positioned myself behind an old oak tree across the street from my own house. At 9:37 p.m., the side gate opened. A man strolled in, confident, gym clothes, smirking. Eric, our neighbor, 2 doors down. We'd had beers together at the block party. He slipped through the back door like he'd done it before. I clenched my fists, waited 6 minutes. Then I walked to Eric's house. His wife, Haley, answered the door. Pajamas, popcorn bowl. "Oh, Nolan, what's up? You need to come with me." "Now," I said. She followed. No questions. The guest room light was off, but I could hear them, laughing, moaning, movement. Haley stopped at the stairs. "What's going on?" she asked, voice trembling. I didn't answer. We climbed together. I pushed the door open. Aubrey was straddling him, shirt half off, laughing, Eric's hands on her hips. They didn't even hear the door. Not until I flicked the light. They froze. Her expression morphed. From bliss to horror. Eric scrambled, reaching for a pillow. Aubrey crawled backward, trembling. "Don't speak," I said. "Not a word." Haley stared at Eric like he was a stranger. "How long?" she asked. 3 months. "Maybe 4," Aubrey whispered. "Get out," I said. "Now." "Nolan, please, let me." "Out," I repeated. "You want to act like garbage? You can leave like garbage. No clothes." Eric hesitated. Aubrey sobbed. Haley grabbed Eric's shorts and hurled them out the window. They left, naked, shamed, broken. And I was calm. I was clear. The war had begun. I sat alone in the living room, drinking black coffee from a chipped mug. The spot where Aubrey's wine glass used to sit haunted me. Not by ghosts, by lies. Every frame quote on the wall, a joke, but I didn't fall apart. I got to work. I powered up my laptop. I compiled every message, every calendar entry that matched my walks, every photo. I screen recorded the footage. I extracted old cloud backups she forgot to disconnect. By morning, I had 150 pages of proof. And I had one goal, total control. Miranda Bellamy, Dayton's top family law attorney. Ruthless. Feared. I booked a consultation. At 11:30 a.m. the next day, I slid a flash drive across her desk. She clicked. Scan. Glanced up. "You want a clean divorce?" "No," I said. "I want control of everything." She leaned back, nodded. "You came to the right place." The week that followed was surgical. Aubrey moved into her sister's place. She texted, emailed, called, begged. I ignored it all, forwarded it all to Miranda. And quietly, I watched Eric's marriage implode. Haley filed for full custody within 2 days. Posted screenshots of his texts on Facebook. The community group chat exploded. Aubrey's face was in memes, but I wasn't finished. Friday, 6 p.m., game night. Troy was back at my place. I told him everything. He wasn't shocked, just furious. We ordered pizza, set up Monopoly, and invited Haley. 3 beers in. Troy leaned forward and said, "So what's next, man? You just let them go." I smiled. They think they walked away with shame. But next week, they lose everything. Monday, 9 a.m., divorce papers delivered. Aubrey showed up at my door, crying, begging, "Please don't do this. We can go to therapy. I was lonely. You were always working. I made a mistake." "Stop," I said. "I gave you love. You gave me strategy." I handed her the papers. She blinked. This is everything. You're taking everything." "No," I said, "just what's mine. And your lies, they're yours to keep." Over the next 2 months, I watched as everything unraveled for her. The house, mine. The joint bank accounts, frozen. Her reputation, in ashes. Eric lost custody, was forced to pay child support, and had to move back into his parents' house. And me? I slept peacefully. But I didn't just stop at revenge. I started rebuilding. Haley and I, both burned by betrayal, began talking more. It wasn't romantic at first. Just 2 people healing in parallel. Nights on the back porch. Confessions over coffee. Quiet jokes. Comfortable silences. The kind you share only with someone who knows how it feels to be gutted by the one you trusted most. One night, she looked at me and said, "You scare me sometimes." "Why?" "Because you didn't yell. You didn't lose control. You planned it." I leaned forward. Anger burns fast. I wanted fire that stayed lit. She looked at me like she finally understood, then whispered, "I hope you never stop protecting your peace." And neither of us looked away. Spring came late that year, as if the world itself needed time to mourn the lies I'd buried. Trees bloomed slower. The skies stayed gray a little longer. But for the first time in years, I felt alive, not just existing in a curated Pinterest life, but breathing honestly, even if it still hurts sometimes. I redecorated the house, tore down every inspirational quote Aubrey had taped on the walls, every "love lives here" and "grow together" sign. I replaced them with silence, with space, with truth. In the evenings, Haley started dropping by more often, not out of need, out of choice. We'd sit on the porch steps, barefoot, sharing the last slice of pizza, trading stories about things we never told our exes. She talked about Eric's lies. I talked about how I stayed quiet for years, afraid that speaking up would shake our marriage. She laughed at the idea that her ex used to say, "I worked too hard to help with laundry." I laughed too, not because it was funny, but because it felt good to laugh with someone who finally got it. One night, she brought over an old scrapbook. "This was going to be our 10th anniversary gift," she said. "Guess I'll repurpose it." We flipped through blank pages. Then she looked at me and asked, "Do you think people like us get second chances?" I didn't answer right away. I just opened the first page, picked up a pen, and wrote, "Chapter 1. This time we build with honesty." She smiled. And that night, for the first time, she didn't go home. We didn't touch. We didn't kiss. We just slept. Two people who didn't have to pretend. Meanwhile, Aubrey was unraveling. She called from a new number, left a voicemail. "You can't just erase me, Nolan. We had a life." She was wrong. I hadn't erased her. I preserved the truth. She erased herself the moment she unlocked that back door and let Eric in. She filed an objection to the divorce division. Miranda shut it down with 3 lines of legal fire backed by damning screenshots. Haley, in her own court battle, won full custody. Eric now got 4 hours of supervised visitation per month. I watched him pick up his kids once while I was jogging. His son flinched when he reached for his hand. Eric's shoulders slumped, and he looked right at me across the sidewalk. I didn't nod, didn't blink, just ran past. By summer, I started to feel it. Peace. But it came slowly in pieces. When I rearranged the furniture. When I didn't wait for a text that never came. When I saw the mail, without fearing a letter from a lawyer. Peace wasn't loud. It was subtle. It was Haley laughing while painting her living room. It was my cousin Troy asking me for advice because he now saw me as someone who doesn't take crap anymore. It was hearing myself say, "I'm proud of how I handled it," and finally meaning it. Then one day, Aubrey showed up at my door. No warning, no text, just there. She looked thinner, like stress had devoured her from the inside out. I want closure," she said softly. I leaned against the doorframe. "Closure isn't something I owe you, Aubrey. But say what you came to say." She hesitated. I was lost. Eric made me feel seen. I thought I needed something new. And by the time I realized I was wrong, you already burned everything. "I finished," I said. Tears welled up in her eyes. "I miss you. Not the house, not the comfort. You." I stayed quiet. Because even though part of me felt the old love still flicker, it wasn't love anymore. It was the ghost of it. "You don't love me anymore, do you?" she asked. I looked her in the eye and said the kindest, cruelest truth. "I do, but I love me more now." She nodded slowly. "You've changed." "I had to. You didn't leave me a choice." Then I shut the door, not in anger, but in peace. That night, Haley came over. I told her what happened. She didn't get jealous. She didn't get territorial. She just leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "She's right. You have changed." And I whispered back, "So have you." August crept in like an old friend, warm, familiar, and quietly reflective. The kind of month where the cicadas hum louder than your thoughts, and porch nights stretch longer than your grief. Haley and I have fallen into an easy rhythm. Not lovers, not quite, but more than friends. Our bond wasn't built on lust or rebound. It was carved from something more sacred, survival. She knew what betrayal tasted like. She knew what it meant to be broken and to rebuild quietly. And now, we're not healing alone anymore. meant to sleep next to someone who smiled at you with secrets under their pillow. And most of all, she knew how to heal in silence. We never rushed. We didn't label it, but we grew something undeniably real. One Thursday evening, as summer wilted into fall, she brought over Chinese food and a folder. "What's that?" I asked, setting down her wine. She exhaled. "Job offer. Cincinnati Children's Hospital. They want me to run the pediatric rehab unit." I froze. That was an hour away. "It's what I've always wanted, Nolan," she said, her voice unsure. "But it means moving, uprooting the kids, starting fresh." My gut twisted, but I didn't show it. "So go," I said. "You deserve it." "What about you?" she asked quietly. "Would you consider coming with me?" I didn't answer right away. I thought of this house. The walls that once echoed with lies, now restructured with peace. The street that once held secrets, now just a road. The neighbors who'd watched my humiliation, but also my rise. Then I looked at her, the woman who showed up in my wreckage and helped me rebuild, without asking for anything in return. And I said, yeah, I think I would. 2 weeks later, I packed only what mattered. My work gear, a few sentimental keepsakes, the photo of my parents on their wedding day. Everything else donated. The house on Elmwood Drive, once a stage of betrayal, was now empty. But I didn't feel loss. I felt release. Haley's kids adjusted fast. Her daughter, Leia, started calling me Mr. Nolan and left crayon drawings on my desk. Her son, Ben, shy at first, now asked me to help him build his Lego cities. And Haley, she flourished, leading her department, smiling in a way that reached her eyes again. We had dinners together, did puzzles on Friday nights, went to the farmer's market every Saturday. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't cinematic, but it was true. One night in October, after putting the kids to bed, we sat out on the balcony of her new place. She rested her head on my chest. "You know what's wild?" she whispered. "What if none of that happened? If Eric didn't cheat? If Aubrey didn't lie? We wouldn't be here." I looked up at the stars. I think about that all the time. "Do you miss her?" she asked. It was a question that could have hurt, but didn't. I took a breath. I missed the idea of who I thought she was, but not the truth of who she really turned out to be. She nodded, and I missed the hope I had in him, the fairy tale I thought I was living. But what we're building here, it's not fantasy. It's solid, honest. I turned to her. "It is..." She smiled. Then after a beat, she whispered, "I'm falling in love with you." And I didn't hesitate. I already fell. 6 months later, we bought a modest house just outside the city, big enough for the kids, small enough to stay humble. On the mailbox, it read, "The West Callahan Home." Some nights, I'd walk the halls and remember what it felt like to lose everything. Some mornings, I'd watch Haley pour cereal with her messy bun and tired eyes and feel more grateful than words could touch. 1 year later, I sent Aubrey a letter. Short, calm, final. "I hope you found what you were looking for. Thank you for teaching me that pain can be a beginning. I don't hate you, but I don't carry you with me anymore. Nolan." She never replied. And that was okay. Back on our new porch, Haley and I watched the kids race their scooters down the sidewalk. The sun was setting behind them, casting long shadows. But none of them scary anymore. She leaned on me and asked, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you didn't find those cigarettes?" I smiled. "No, because if I hadn't found them, I never would have found this." She laughed softly, then whispered the words that had eluded us both for years. "We're home now, aren't we?" And for once, I didn't need to rewrite my answer. I just held her closer,